Hey guys, and welcome to the first episode of 2026 of the BD Sports wrap up. So if any of you guys don't know this used about a couple of years ago. This used to be the footy wrap up, but now I've integrated more sports into it, so, other than footy side of sport, just give it a bit of a change, give it a bit of a name change, and put sports instead of footy. So yeah, but even though I will be talking a bit about footy today. Now, this episode, I was supposed to do this episode last week, but I forgot. But I kind of forgot about it. So that's how this has turned into a bit of a catch up episode. So there will be 2 episodes this week, but there will be the 1 episode a week thing that will return next. It will return next week. And it's gonna be, because obviously next couple of weeks are gonna be busy weeks. Obviously, of course, the NRL starts this weekend with the Vegas games, and then also MotoGP starts this weekend as well. Last weekend, of course, supercars. Of course, we had supercars, and then busy the week before that with AFL Origin and the Bathurst 12hr and that sort of stuff. And now, and then obviously, and then the week after that, I will be heading down to the Friday of the Australian Formula One Grand Prix. Because last year I enjoyed it. I enjoyed it so much that I did that I wanted to go back there again. So, and I will go back there again this time, and I will be vlogging that properly this time. So enough of the jibber jabber. Of course, what's on the first episode? Well, I will be talking about talking a couple of things about AFL Origin. Was Nick Dacos robbed of the EJ Whitten medal, and what is the future going to be like for the concept, and what my thoughts are about that. A couple of things that I'll talk about the Bathurst 12hr. Obviously, about the kangaroo invasion that happened at the 12hr, and then also a really big accident which caused the red, as you all now caused the red flag and all that. So yeah, that's also to talk about. And also, could this be the last time that we see cars other than GT3 cars be at the 12hr, possibly there. We'll also be talking about another great race that is over the other side of the world, in the Daytona 500, where a basketball legend got a victory, got a win there, and also talking about SVG as well, and also I'm going to be talking about my thoughts about the winter, about Australia's most successful Winter Olympics ever. To tell you the truth about that. So yeah. So let's get this started here. So those are things that are going to be on the agenda here. So let me just pull this up here. So the first couple of rank, of course, is AFL Origin. The first one I'll talk about is Nick Dacos. Now, of course, watched AFL Origin. It was a fantastic game. It was everything that I thought it would be, to be honest. And I will be doing a match review video at some point, either either this weekend, either over the course of the next few days, or over the weekend, or over next week. At some point, I will be doing that. Probably until the footy season starts. Probably that's probably it, but I will be doing that. So yeah. So of course, Nick Dacos. I thought Nick Dacos was certain to get the EJ medal. Now the best on ground for Western Australia. I completely agree with it. I think Jesse Hogan definitely deserves that. He was a real presence up forward for Sand Gropers, and that would be. I bet you that so many GWS fans will be licking their chops at watching that from Jesse Hogan. But the EJ Whitten medal was for me a bit of controversy. Well, for some reason, no one started to talk about it. I know it's all about, of course, State of Origin returning, State of Origin football returning is basically the main talking point, but this needs to be addressed as well. And well, as I said, I thought Nick Dacos was a lock for winning it. I thought, but as it turned out that it went to Lockie Ash. For his now don't get me wrong, he played a good game on the half-back line, and really it really was a help defensively, especially when Western Australia got a big roll on in that last quarter, and one stage got the Sand Gropers got within a goal. So don't get me wrong, Lockie Ash did play a good game. Did he deserve the EJ Whitten medal? I would say probably not. I mean, look at the statistics here. I mean, Lockie Ash had, of course, 25 touches, 7 marks, 88% disposal efficiency, 9 intercept possessions, and 7 score involvements, while Nick Dacos had a lazy 38 touches, 9 marks, 10 contested possessions, 4 goal assists, 14 score involvements, 679 metres gained, 7 clearances, and a goal. But to be fair, if you play this game on, if you try to do the man of the match on statistics, Nick Dacos would be winning the EJ medal 99.99% of the time. But this was the 0.1%, pretty much. So yeah. So the big question is, was Nick Dacos robbed of the EJ Whitten medal? I say yes. He was. He was fantastic for them, and that sort of and all that. So yeah. So yes. So I think so for me, I think Nick Dacos was robbed of another medal to have won. So to have win. So yes, that's what I think. Really about that. Just very quickly, moving on to the future of this concept. Now, already, it wasn't even a day after the Origin match finished that already speculations come out about the fact that the Adelaide Oval, at the South Australian government under Peter Malinauskas has announced that their intentions to have the Origin game be brought to South Australia. Now, obviously, it's already It's already been announced by Andrew Dillon, the AFL CEO, that AFL Origin will return in 2027. But as far as I'm concerned, he hasn't announced the venue yet, or the teams as well, or what it's going to be like. So the many scenarios that have been played out in the media for this concept are as follows. One is obviously what it was like this year. West Australia and Victoria at Optus Stadium. No doubt about that. The second scenario would be, for me, South Australia play Victoria at Adelaide Oval, and then have West Australia versus the Indigenous All Stars at Optus Stadium. Maybe have that game. Maybe have, I don't know. Maybe have South Australia and Victoria play on a Friday night, and then the next day have, and then West Australia and the Indigenous All Stars play in the play on the Saturday night. Who knows? There was talk from Eddie Maguire about having two groups. Having Victoria, West Australia, South Australia, and the Indigenous All Stars, and then the other group have Tasmania, New South Wales, Queensland, and Northern Territory, in two groups of four, and then two teams over multiple weekends, and then the top teams from both groups play off in a sort of like an All Australian final, and that's something that Eddie's proposed. For me, my ideal scenario would be an Origin game on a Friday night, Origin game on a Saturday night, Origin game on a Sunday night. Origin have an Origin weekend. Like, I don't know how that's gonna happen, because maybe have Victoria versus South Australia, of course. West Australia versus Indigenous All Stars, and then or maybe and then maybe Tasmania play an Allies side. I don't know, but yeah, and then if there's some. And then also if there's some, and then, or maybe not. No. I don't know. I don't know what's the future is going to be like for this concept, but it was. I think this game has proven, and yes, there were injuries out of that game, which for some of those players, which that will take them out of all these practice games and potentially for the open round and round one, but we proved. But there was so many times last year where teams lost important players when they were training. And there was rumors going around that maybe clubs would put restricted minutes on certain players for AFL Origin, but for me, I think it's if the club's just going to control this concept will only last will last the next 3 years, and then it will be going again. Also, one thing is, should this happen every year, every 2 years? I always say, I've said it every year. For me, I know every 2 years. I mean, it would be more special and that sort of stuff. But nothing is better than pulling on that for like someone like Nick Dacos or Marcus Bontempelli every year, just pulling on the big V and playing. So I think for me, I think it should be every year. So yeah, and also yeah, as I said, if the clubs take, excuse me, put on minutes, excuse me, restricted minutes on some star players in AFL Origin, this concept's not going to last. So, I know, but I know they're never gonna, calm it down on that, but they have to because I think for me the players just gotta go, well, I'm playing for my state. Why are you restricting me minutes? Like just imagine if Collingwood restricted Nick Dacos, or Western Bulldogs restricted Marcus Bontempelli, or the Gold Coast restricted Ben King, for about a quarter or a half. It's just not going to be a quality game. So I think the clubs should, the clubs should calm it down a little bit and just let them play. And if they get injured, they get injured. So that's what I think about that happening. So moving on to the 12, moving on to Australia's international enduro, which was the Bathurst 12hr. Of course, it was a great performance by Mercedes, obviously. Maxime Martin, Max Grenner, and Mara Engel winning the 12hr after starting from starting almost from the back of the field in the GT3. Or especially out of all the GT3 cars, it started at the back row and got to first and capitalised on the big incident for Estelbo, or multiple accidents during the race. We'll get to that shortly. But one incident I want to cover talking about. The first incident I want to talk about is of course the kangaroo invasion. Now we all know that kangaroos have been a staple of Bathurst and Mount Panorama, through the 1000, and then also, of course, through the 12hr and all that sort of stuff. But this invasion was on a whole other level. Start of the race, obviously, of course, we had this beautiful Ford Mustang GT3 car that was making its debut at the Bathurst 12hr. Make its debut at the 12hr, and it only lasted 3 laps before down Conrod Straight. Conrod Straight, Christopher Mees, of course, the inaugural winner of the 12hr in the GT3 era back in 2011. He was riding along down Conrod Straight, just minding his own business in the night time at the start of the race. All of a sudden, big Skippy, Skippy decides, I'm just going to jump out on the racetrack. And next thing you know, whack. He hits it. It causes phenomenal, absolute, horrific damage to the, big damage to the Hort Racing team Ford Mustang. Parked it just near the chase. And it wasn't until it came out later, in fact, that there was things horrific. Obviously, there was horrifically kangaroo blood all over the car and all over the driver himself. Reports then came out that Chris Mees actually vomited because of the smell of the kangaroo blood. and he had multiple showers. He had I remember he went to the probably the hotel nearby. They allowed him to take the suit off and have a shower. He had 2 showers, and after that second shower, he still smelt like kangaroo blood. Still smelt the kangaroo blood on him, which was that was how bad it was. So yeah, and then obviously he's come out and said, the kangaroos this kangaroo invasion's been the worst that he has seen at the 12 hour, and he's even calls to change, things like changing the times, maybe having the race start a bit later, and even have higher fences, which I don't know. I don't know how you can do that, because I don't know how that's going to happen. I don't think, I don't know how, or I don't think that's going to happen. Because those things, you'll need to get the Bathurst City Council involved, and also the state government as well. So so I don't think that's going to happen. But it was bad, but it's not. But it wasn't over yet, because about an hour or so late. Excuse me. About an hour or so later, one of the reigning Bathurst 12-hour winners, Kelvin van der Linde, in the BMW, he hit a little kangaroo. I think it was coming over Skyline. I think, or something. I think it was, or mate, I don't know where around the track, but he hit a little joey, a little kangaroo. It wasn't a joey. I think it was a little kangaroo. But it definitely was as big as the one that Chris Mees hit. Because I remember, I think that kangaroo was massive, and then that kangaroo ricocheted into the number 6 Mercedes, which was driven by Philippe Ellis at the time. That kangaroo ricocheted into him, which damaged the nose of that Mercedes GT3 car, which caused it to go many laps down. Of course, van der Linde, it did some damage, but not a lot, and it was still in contention, and that 32 and that car was still in contention anyway. So those are ones that we thought, those are 2 major incidents, that and that's the end of the story. No, apparently it wasn't, because it came out about hours after the race that Valentino Rossi, almost around the same time that Chris Mees, in between these 2 incidents I just mentioned, had his own encounter with the kangaroo. But this time it was up through turn 2 at Griffin's Bend. I don't know. I don't know if it was. I need to look at it. Look at it again. I need to look at that article again. I think it was. I remember reading it on Speed Cafe, but I can't remember if he said if it was on the entry to turn 2 or on the exit of turn 2. I think it was on the entry. I think it was on the entry to turn 2. But apparently, from what he said, was that he was driving up Mountain Straight, and then all of a sudden, a kangaroo just came out of nowhere. But luckily, he unlike the first 2, unlike the other 2, he avoided it. So basically, So basically, that's what that. So we could have had 3 incidences with kangaroos, but we ended up having with 2, but with 1 close encounter and 1 missed encounter. So could there something be done about it? Probably. probably can have, fencing and that sort of stuff, or either shift it to more or less shift it to a later time. But I think for me, if it was, I think, and if we don't even want to think, if Channel 7 still broadcasted the race, I think yes, move it to a later time because that means that it could capitalize on some prime time. You could watch the last hour or so of the race in prime time, probably, and then but now it looks like now for the future it's going to be only specifically going to be on Fox Sports and KO. I don't see the point in it, to be honest. I just don't see the point in it. It makes sense from a free to air point of view, moving the start of the race to much later. But it makes more sense but in terms of for paid TV reasons, I just don't see the reason of it, to be honest. And for the fences, well, maybe they can. But how high do you want the fences? Because those big kangaroos can bloody jump. There's no point in having fences that are probably almost just as high as me, because kangaroos would just jump over that shit and just basically, yeah. But of course, but you don't want. But at the same time, you don't want a kangaroo to be the reason why basically a $500 to $1 million GT3 car got destroyed. Well, it didn't get destroyed, but it got majorly. But it got major damage to that car. So that unfortunate there. Speaking of big accidents, we need to get to the big accident at Forest Elbow. Now, you guys weren't living under a rock, living in the 12hr. So this is what happened. So we had the restart, and the rules are that that cars that are that were 1 lap plus down, they would get a wave around. They would get a wave around to get to the back and get to the back of the pack. Well, this happened there, and so the leaders, they restarted. Of course they restarted, obviously. But meanwhile, at the top of the mountain, the Tsunami Racing Team Porsche number 79, which was driven by Johannes Zelgar, he crashed at the same spot at Stillman Park. Of course, the corner before McPhillamy, before they go past McPhillamy. Same spot where James Golding had his big crash in between BR and Audi. Thing about 10 minutes, 15 minutes, about 20 minutes before this, he crashed and he went slower down the mountain. Now the rule and all the cars were basically at walking pace behind the Tsunami Racing Porsche. And that was the reason why what it was. While the wave around happened, you cannot overtake at all for any circumstances. You cannot overtake a car when it's waved around until you get back around and past the control line. But this is what happened. So, but initially, everybody in the field was confused. Should we stay behind him? I mean, he's just crashed, so we should overtake him. But they didn't want to risk overtaking and get a penalty or whatnot. So yeah, but unfortunately, as the 100 Grove Racing Mercedes was driven by Kai Allen at the time, he spun the Porsche out and it was left sideways at the entrance to Forest Elbow. Of course, the number 14 Volante Rosso Aston Martin was slowly. That slowly, I think I can get out walking as fast as him. He was slowly trying to get past there. Just as this happened, the race leaders were coming around. Now, of course, the leader, obviously, the pioneer with this, was the number 77 Craft Bamboo car driven by Ralph Aron. He came round. He came around. And before this, from what I heard, that number 77 car, 77 Mercedes, I don't remember if it was throughout all the first half of the race or if it was just just came out of the blue. But for some time, it had severe radio issues that I think it was that I think Aron can hear them. No. The team can hear Aron, but not the other, but Aron couldn't hear them. He couldn't hear them. So basically, he was going at full speed, going down going through the S's and then through the Dipper, going down towards Forest Elbow at full steam. Next thing you know, whack! It has hit the stationary Porsche side on, and both cars were destroyed. The front of the Craft Bamboo car was completely destroyed. It was hit so bad that the Porsche thought it was back at the Winter Olympics at Milano Cortina and just basically did a full 720. So yeah. And there was debris everywhere. There was some debris that was coming off of some of the leaders, a lot like the Sun Energy 1 car. Had some debris made contact with that, but flew off, ricocheted off that. So did the GMR car eventually that did win the race. Some of that contact there, but obviously, and then it was confirmed later. And then basically that caused the red flag. Because of the debris all over the track, and it was confirmed, and then it was confirmed much later that Ralph Aron actually suffered. I think it was a broken back. I think I remember rightly. Suffered. Suffered. I think it was a broken back. I think it was, if I remember rightly. But the more interesting part about it was, if you look at the replay, the marshalling point the nearest to where the Porsche was half spun, that was waving yellow flags. But the marshalling point beforehand, which was between Forest Elbow and the Dipper, no one was waving flags at all. So I think for me this crash I think it's the real wake up call that someone could have been. It was lucky that Ralph Adon only had a minorly broken back, or at least had a sore back. This could have been much worse. Especially at a circuit like this where there are a fuck ton of blind corners. Sorry for my French, but it's true. There are a stack of blind corners, and yeah. Some people might say, "Oh, it's just unfortunate, really," but no. I mean, how is it unfortunate that the marshalling point closest to the accident was waving yellow flags? But then the marshalling point at marshal's post further up, further up, a little bit further up, they didn't wave any flags. I just don't understand that. Maybe I think for me the change should be for me, the whole not just the sector of where the section of where the accident is, or where the car is that's half spun, should have yellow flags there. I think for me a whole sector should be yellow flag. It should be yellow flagged and all that, because for me, and of course, as I said, the Craft Bamboo car had radio issues throughout the entirety of the throughout the race. And speaking about that, I think for me, I'm not blaming Craft Bamboo for this. I'm not blaming the team for this. I think for me, race control should have said that it should have said to them, you need to fix your. I don't care if you want to get it fixed or not. You need to get your radio issues fixed, even though it could cost you guys the race. Once race control, they needed to notify race control and say, look, can we get to the pits, and because obviously Ralph Adon, he could not hear anything, so he didn't know when he got down the Bathurst 12hr. He didn't know there was going to be a Porsche that was going to be in his way on the racing, especially on the racing line. So I think for me, race control should have allowed the team to at least fix their I think it should be mandatory that it should be. I think for me, race control, it should be like a mechanical black flag for when a rear bumper falls off, or a front front wing falls off, or something compared to the bodywork is hanging off. It should be compared to that, because radio communication is the most. I don't care what people say. Radio communication is the most important thing that is on a race car. I don't care what anyone else tells me, because that radio communication, it could be the difference between you missing a potential fatal accident or being a part of one. So it doesn't matter if it kills someone or you. I don't care what anyone else tells me. I think for me, radio. I think that the radio is the most important part of the car, and if that's failing, I think that race control should be allowed to intervene and put out some kind of mechanical black flag to go. Okay, you guys have got, or maybe there should be a rule where if a team has radio communication issues, they have to report that to race control and say, and then they make a decision of like, oh, should we intervene? Should we not? Yada yada. And then we go, yeah, we should intervene with this. Because if you make it optional, they're not going to tell. The team's not going to tell. They're not going to tell race control that because they want to win the freaking race, for God's sake. So I know it's winning a race, but this could have been much worse. If Craft Bamboo had been allowed to solve their radio communication issues, then also add more yellow flags involved, this accident could have been and should have been prevented, but it wasn't, and it could have been much worse too. So yeah, and I did not know if Jonas Zelga got out of the car. I don't know if he did or not, if I can remember rightly. I need to look back at the footage. Look back at the footage of the accident. I don't know if he got out of the car. I don't know about that. But anyway, so yes, I think for me, in my opinion, for me, to just to not to end this topic. I think for me, yes, the marshalling could have been better with this. We could have. I think the rules should be changing, where instead of the section of where the car stationary is, that should be under yellow flags. So specifically Forest Elbow, it should be under yellow flags. The whole sector should be under yellow flags, because But what if, for example, or if, for example, if this sort of thing happens again, like if for example, if an accident happens at the beginning of Sector 2, which was at Bathurst, which is at the exit of Reed Park, if an accident happens there, maybe have sectors 1 and 2 be under yellow flag. Well, maybe have single yellow flags. Maybe have single yellow flags waved for Sector 1, and then in Sector 2 it should be double waved yellows for a car spinning sideways, that sort of stuff, just to avoid that. And then also, for me, race control should be allowed to intervene when a specific car has radio communication issues, because radios are the most important thing now in a car nowadays, especially when it's sort of accident like that. So yeah, I think a big lesson and a wake up call has happened to be quite honest in this crash there. Now, very quickly before we move on to the Daytona 500, could we have seen the last of the GD4 and Invitational cars at the 12hr? Now, obviously, since it's come back from the pandemic, the 12 hours come back from the pandemic. Of course, or especially since 2024, the GD4 and Invitational classes have dwindled massively. While the GD4 and Invitational class going like this, the GD3s has just gone like this. Going like this the last few years, and then this year just go like that because of two cars which are called the Mustang and the Corvette. So yeah, I even said this during the weekend as well. During the weekend, so I said to myself, two things I never thought I would see in my life: State of Origin football returning, and Chevy Chevy Corvette racing at around Bathurst. Never thought I would see those two things in my lifetime, and I have now. So yeah. But back on the video at hand here. So yeah, and why is the especially GT4 cars being at risk for the 12-hour? Well, there was during the 12-hour weekend there's rumors that the the monochrome GT4 Australia series might start its season at the 12-hour as a support category, as one of the support acts, which I think it's a good plan, a good idea. I think for me that's what I've been thinking of there. But I don't know what does that mean for GT4 cars at the 12 hours. Does that mean that there's going to be no GT4 cars there? Is that because the reason why, so many of the big teams, there are still so many big teams that compete at the 12-hour, like WRT, Hort Racing Team, the JMR, Craft Bamboo, all these guys is because of the traffic with the GT4 and the Invitational cars. So yeah, and we've only a couple of, and we've of course last year the 2025 12 hour we only had one Invitational car, which was the GT2 Crossbow, and then obviously the IRC GT car, aka the Mark car, returned this year for the 12 hour. So yeah, so that's what I think. It's great, and I think for me, I think GT3 racing. I think the GT3 field, in terms of the 12 hours, just going to grow bigger and bigger and bigger because I think Triple Eight. I assume they'll come the next year to 12 hour with their own car, and maybe potentially Walkinshaw racing team could maybe go to 12 hour because if you not lived under a rock the last 6 months, it was announced that Toyota would be entering the GT3 ranks with the Toyota GR GT3, which I looked at it and to be honest, it kind of looks like a cheap version of the GTR of the Nissan GTR, to be quite honest. But that's not scheduled to race until they'll be testing it throughout 2026 and also throughout 2027. Most likely 2027 will be the first race with this car, and then it won't, probably in the 12 hour won't be until 2028 probably at the earliest. So yeah, so the GT3 field is just going to go up and up and up and up and up every year, and the other class is just going down and down. So why not capitalize on it? And I just and if the organisers of the 12 hour want to go down this road, why not send out the invite to many international teams, because the WEC season, the World Endurance Championship season, doesn't start now until the end of March now. So plenty of time with that, and also if you move it a week later, a week more away from the Rolex 24 at Daytona, it could allow for more IMSA teams to come out with their entries. So it could be, it could, at the end of the day, it could cost more money, but more international entries means more of a field and all that sort of stuff, and that sort of stuff there, to be quite honest. And for me, it would just be, I think it will be great. It will be great to have, some of the big, just imagine Iron Lynx, a team like, for example, Iron Lynx having their Mercedes coming down here for the 12hr, or AF Corsa coming out with their Ferrari alongside the A-Rise racing Ferrari that has been racing here. Just imagine that. That would be also, even imagine Proton Competition coming down here with their Mustang against Triple Eight's Mustang GT3 car and the HRT Hort Racing Team Mustang that competed at 12hr this year. Just imagine that. I mean, that would just be awesome, to be quite honest. And to be honest, I think for me, the only way for this to happen is to ditch the GT4 class and the invitational classes. A few years ago, before the pandemic, I would have said no, don't get rid of those. Especially don't get rid of the invitational class, because we need an extra class for the 12hr. Especially around that time, it was when the Class B cars would be which was an all basically Porsche class. It was basically you should call it Class Porsche. Basically, it was full of Porsche Cup cars. We started to dwindle, so basically all we got was the GT3 cars and the invitational class cars. Now that those are now started to dwindle, and really GT4 has never really got off the ground at the 12hr, I think for me, the organiser, I think for me, I have no choice but to basically make from now on the 12hr a GT3 only race. To be quite honest. I'm just being honest here, because it's because those are now starting to dwindle, because as I said, those combined two entries in those two classes, they're going down. The interest of that is going down, while the GT3 interest is going up. So for me, it's a no-brainer, really, on that front. So that's what I think could be. Yeah. And also another storyline as well, I haven't talked about, just talk about it for a minute. We might have seen the last time we see the Lamborghini Huracan race for the 12hr, because the guys don't know. I think the next IMSA event at the Sea-Ring 12hr is going to be the first race of the new Lamborghini Temporario GT3 car. Because of course the Lamborghini teams at the Rolex 24 did compete with the Huracan, and also the World Racing Team raced with the Huracan at the 12hr. Could this be the last time? I don't know. But I've had a look at the Temporario, and it looks nice, and it looks very nice as well. So maybe the end of an era there for Lamborghini at the 12hr, the end for the Huracan, and then might step the Temporario next year. Moving on now from the 12hr and motor racing here in Australia to a big race over on the other side of the world, over in the US of A, in the form of the Daytona 500. So obviously, so obviously, the Daytona 500 obviously ran and won, obviously, and of course, and of course, yeah. And I want to talk about a certain guy. I think you guys probably guys are a fan of basketball have heard of him. His name is Michael Air Jeffrey Jordan. I don't think you know him. I think some people called him the greatest basketball player of all time. He's won a lazy 6 NBA championships with the one team in the Chicago Bulls through the 90s, and then he's the only and he was there for so basically won 3 titles, then he retired, then he unretired, then he won another 3 titles, then he retired, then moved to a certain Washington team. Then he retired again for the final time. So yeah, but for the last few years, he has owned a team with 2311 Racing in NASCAR, and alongside with of course current Joe Gibbs Racing driver Denny Hamlin. He has won, and the team has won races. But has not won the big one, which was the Daytona 500. That changed this year with the 45 car of Tyler Reddick winning the race in a crash filled last lap. I think several cars crashed out at the entry to turn 1, and then coming to the line there was another wreck. So it's a wreck which caused Reddick to win the race. And the last lap, that was the only lap he led for the entire race. Only one lap. He done a Chase Mostert at Bathurst for the Bathurst 12hr in 2014. He led one lap, which was the last one. The most important lap of all, the last lap. So yeah. And let's just say MJ was pretty happy about that. Was pretty pumped up about it. Let's be honest with that there. So glad to see MJ having a win. Having another major win in something that is not basketball. So yeah, I'm definitely sure there'll be special Jordan merch out celebrating the Daytona 500 win, obviously. That involves shirts, shoes, and shoes, whatever floats our boats. But anyway, I want to talk about SVG I want to talk Champion Gisbergen for a little bit here. So obviously. His speed weeks obviously it started with the clash at Bowman Gray Stadium, which is the smallest bricket asphalted oval I've ever seen in my life. So apparently that got delayed for multiple days because of snow. But eventually, at some stage during the race it rained and it benefited, and they got out there. It benefited Shane because he was leading most of the time anyway, and then obviously got punted back through the field, and then eventually spun out and eventually did not finish the race. But no, let's not get to that. We get to Daytona, and he qualified 37th out of 40 odd cars, which was not great qualifying, but qualifying was not the way in which to finish the to sort of in a way of which. So, okay, let me start this again. It's not. qualifying for the Daytona 500 is not qualifying for the race itself. It is qualifying is to sort out the field for the dual races, which are here in Australia. It's on Friday morning here in Australia, mid to late Friday morning here in Australia, but it's Thursday night over in America. So yeah, and where you finish there sorts out in your dual race. That's where you're lining up for the Daytona 500. So he qualified 37th, but I think he started, 17th or 19th, I think, in the duels. And he was in the right place at the right time at the end of his duel because he was in the bottom half of the top 10. He would go, I'm going to might start the race in 20th, in the middle of the pack. All of a sudden, a crash happened at the start of the last lap, and it eventually went through to finish. All of a sudden, he finished his duel in 6th and was to be starting in 12th on the grid. So he's basically because of the dual race, he advanced about 25 positions from his original qualifying position. So that was great there. So let's get to the race. To the race itself. So he was very, even though he didn't get any stage points because nowadays NASCAR Cup races are it used to be a full let's say Daytona 500 full 200 laps. Now it goes in stages. So I think it goes 60, 60, 80. So the first stage is 60 laps, second stage is 60 laps, and then the final stage is 80 laps, which goes to the end of the race. And the first two stages include stage points, which counts towards your points total. Counts towards your points total. So and quite simply it goes from first down to 10, and it goes 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. So quite obviously counting there. SVG didn't have any stage points. Didn't get any stage points, but he was competitive. He was ran for about 2/3 of the race. He was running up at the front. He even led 3 laps. Led a couple laps, 3 of them to be exact, during the race, and looked set for a good finish in his second Daytona 500. Unfortunately, towards the end of stage 2, he got caught up in what Americans called it the big one, where he got caught up in, I think it was like a 10 or 11 car wreck towards the end of stage 2, which caused him. He didn't have major damage at all, but he did have minor damage, which caused him to go a lap down, which basically was the end of his race. Really, goes to go a couple laps down, which caused the end of his race. He ended up finishing 30th with a lap down, but it was a pretty good. It was a pretty impressive performance. If you don't, he's 30th placing 1 lap down behind the winner in Tyler Reddick. I think for me, his performance in the 500 was impressive. But it was impressive if you don't look at the results too closely, because or the qualifying too closely. Now, obviously, he finished. Obviously, some people might think, he qualified 37th. If he had started 37th for the 500, he would not have finished that. He definitely would not have finished in that particular order. He wouldn't have gotten time at the front the way he did, and then obviously would not have led the laps at what he did, and him getting caught up in the accident probably would have happened earlier. but it's all about but it's all about being at the right place at the right time, and he was in the right place at the right time in his duel, causing to finish in sixth in his duel, causing to advance a total amount up the order up the starting grid, and of course so I think for me. I think for me here is a lot. I think this is a lot of guys that said out of the NASCAR world media landscape has come out and said if SVG, because we all know he's probably the best best road course racer in NASCAR at the moment. Proved that last year with winning 5 races. I think it was about 4 or 5 races on the road course. But everyone has said if he gets dialed in on an oval, everyone has to beware. Everyone beware. One beware, to be honest. And I think he's starting to get to grips with it, because I remember there was one of the races last year. I think it was in Las Vegas. I remember rightly. One of the races towards the back half of that, in the playoffs, where I think he started in the top 10, led some laps, and was for about 80% of the race, if I can remember rightly. He was inside the top 10, either inside the top 10 or inside the top 5, and then with 20 laps left, he got caught up in an accident, spun out, and that was the end of his race. So I think for me, with this performance, if he can stay out of trouble, if it's possible, if he can stay out of trouble, then he can basically, I wouldn't be surprised if he ends up winning a race on the oval at some point. At some point soon, more than likely. But with in terms of that, finally, So to close out this, this first episode, I want to talk about. Australia's. Hang on a second here. I've got the perfect one for this occasion here. I should bring this out, by the way. I want to talk about Australia's best Winter Olympics that they've had. And for me, in my opinion, this was a long time coming. I haven't watched a lot of World Cup events for alpine skiing and bobsled and aerial skiing, which us Aussies are successful in in recent times. But I haven't been watching a lot. But thanks to the news, thanks to all the news outlets, like Channel 9, Channel 7, that sort of stuff. Most of that sort of stuff went about the progression of those guys when it gets closer into the Winter Olympics, and with guys like Chikara Anthony, Matt Graham, those guys that are the best mogul skiers in the world. They've and also guys like Scotty James as well. And all that sort of stuff it's just great to see that they progress, and as I said, this was a long time coming. We've probably had the most talented Winter Olympic lineup team teams in the last couple of Winter Olympics, like of course in Sochi in 2014, Pyeongchang in 2018, Beijing in 2022, but we have not delivered on the world stage. This time, but this year we have, and it's possible we could have added to. I mean, this is how crazy. This is how crazy good we were at these Olympics. For most of it, we were in front of Canada in the medal tally. Canada, we were in front of for most, if not all, for most of these Winter Olympics, we were ahead of Canada in the medal tally. And they have snowy Alps all the time. We only have a handful of snow on certain areas. We're basically a summer nation, and we're in front of a nation that is known for their snow. So I don't know how that's happened. To be honest, but yeah, as I said, we could have won more. I mean, if Chikara Anthony didn't have that stumble in the women's moguls final, then she could have had 2 gold medals. She could have had 2 gold medals. I liked the interview that she did where she said that she said that she said about bouncing back and that she got conversations with Jess Fox because we all know that because we all know what happened at the 2021/2020 Tokyo Olympics, where in the I'm trying to remember which one it was, the K1 final, everyone else thought, Jess Fox is gonna win this. So I remember this right because I remember these 2 events quite well because I felt the full gamut of emotions watching Jess Fox in this one, where she was dominant. She was just, and she was on her way to basically winning the gold medal in the K1 slalom, kayak event, and then one mistake and that went right out the window, and she didn't even get a medal in that event. And I felt devastated for her, to be honest. And then she rebounded the next day in the C1 final, won the gold medal, and that's what I meant by I felt the full gamut of emotions from watching that. To be quite honest, a lot of fans probably would have felt the same way about with Chikara Anthony with this one. I mean, would have had so many Australian Aussie fans would have had their head in their hands just watching Chikara Anthony stumble in the women's moguls final when she pretty much on paper she's the best women's moguls skier in the world, and she had that, and she felt really good leading into that final run, and then one mistake and it's all over. So yeah, and then that must have been tough for her to go back to do the moguls duels because that's a new event that they added on the Winter Olympic program. She came out there and won the gold medal. So yeah. So I think for me, and as I said, we could have won more. It could have been more. But but it was, but still 3 gold medals, most successful Winter Olympics ever. I mean, I don't think we've had this amount of gold medals in a combined summer and winter Olympic cycle than this, because I think we had about 20. I think we had 20 gold medals in the around. I think we had around 17 to 18 golds at Paris in 2024 in the Summer Olympics in 2024, and then you had add the 3 Winter Olympic golds in Milano Cortina this year. That's about over 20 gold medals. So I don't think we've had that much ever, to be honest, ever in a cycle of combined summer and winter Olympics. Probably that is pretty much insane. So yeah, but yeah, so yeah, and then also other, it's shame about others that got injured, like Laura Peel. I mean, she got obviously. I think that could have been, because I think she was. I think she's regarded as one of the best aerial skiers in the world. So now, and once she went down injured, I thought, oh, that's the end of that's the only hope of a medal in women's aerial skiing gone, basically gone, because the others could contend, but probably they weren't a lock to win the medal. I think Laura was the only female there, part of that women's aerial skiing Australian team that was pretty much a contender for a medal or even a gold. And once she went down, that was it. So yeah. All the Winter Olympians did such a wonderful job representing our country, and hopefully we have a better Olympics in 2030. The next episode I'll be talking about which because I think 2/3 of the Winter Olympic team were at their first Olympics. So how many of those veterans they've been at the Olympics for a long time? How many of those will be back in France in 2030? I'll be doing that in the next episode. But obviously, obviously like this video. Share to anybody who is a footy fan or a motorsports fan or an Australian Olympic fan. Comment down below what was your what are your thoughts on this episode? Do you think that Nick Dacos was robbed of the EJ win medal? What are your thoughts on and if you are from Australia with the Winter Olympics, are you happy about how we went in the Winter Olympics? I would like to hear your thoughts and opinions. And one last thing, somewhere down there, click on the big red button, which is labeled subscribe. It really does help me out quite a bit there as this big period of sport for me continues. So yeah. So but until next time, guys. I'll see you all later. Go on the Aussies. We were all so proud to be an Australian that watch these Winter Olympics. Very proud indeed. Almost lost it then.